When we got back to New York City, Wendy Williams was in Philly at a new station.
You see, I'm a public official, so everything I do is for the public's perusement. So my job is to do the best that I can.
Katt Williams has always been the comedian armed with proof, the fearless voice who pulled back Hollywood's velvet curtain to expose its darkest secrets. After years of cryptic warnings and late-night interviews, he now returns with a revelation shaking the entire industry. He isn't hinting anymore. He's confirming a list exists, one that names A-listers, entertainers, and even political figures who stepped into Diddy's infamous parties and walked out with far more than champagne. Some left tainted spiritually, physically, and reputationally. His chilling prophecy that every major deviant would face reckoning in 2024 has begun unfolding with eerie accuracy as federal charges close in on the once untouchable mogul and whispers grow louder about who else will be exposed.
When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, nobody likes them.
Katt Williams has always been the comedian armed with proof, the fearless voice who pulled back Hollywood's velvet curtain to expose its darkest secrets. After years of cryptic warnings and late-night interviews, he now returns with a revelation shaking the entire industry. He isn't hinting anymore. He's confirming a list exists, one that names A-listers, entertainers, and even political figures who stepped into Diddy's infamous parties and walked out with far more than champagne. Some left tainted spiritually, physically, and reputationally. His chilling prophecy that every major deviant would face reckoning in 2024 has begun unfolding with eerie accuracy as federal charges close in on the once untouchable mogul and whispers grow louder about who else will be exposed.
They will refer to me as Wild King Nights. And what a Wild King Night was when him and a guest would go to a hotel room or be at his home, his bedroom, and they would have intimate gatherings. I would have to go and prep that hotel room, which consisted of baby oil, Astroglide.
The term puppet contracts has become one of the most chilling whispers in Hollywood's underground rumor mill. Insiders allege that before the lights dimmed and the music began at Diddy's most exclusive gatherings, guests weren't handed NDAs but something far darker, documents crafted not just to silence but to bind. A former road manager claims he saw one, explaining the twisted logic. Once you signed, Diddy owned your secret, and your secret owned you. As theatrical as it sounds, prosecutors uncovered evidence during raids that eerily matched Katt's long-standing. Warnings, rooms lined with cameras, thousands of bottles of baby oil, all part of a machinery of coercion. Imagine a room filled with megastars, each aware that one camera angle could destroy them. Whispers suggest names like Beyoncé and Drake, pressured into signing before stepping inside. These weren't deals for collaborations or endorsements. They were shackles in disguise, a sinister form of leverage granting one man control over the untouchable. What unfolded after the signatures is spoken of in tones reserved for cult-like rituals, where nothing was sacred and no one too powerful, to be stripped bare in compromising light.
Let's talk about the filth that's starting to come out in the early days of the Diddy trial. This, of course, is P. Diddy. Surprise, surprise, he's a creep. Surprise, surprise, he's done horrible things.
The true power of those puppet contracts wasn't in the signatures, but in the threat that followed. A constant reminder that every move was being filmed, every indulgence carefully archived. A-listers who thrived on pristine reputations suddenly became marionettes, knowing a single leak could collapse billion-dollar empires. Now, as federal investigators edge closer to exposing those tapes, the looming question is how many careers were built on silence, and how many will crumble once the footage surfaces. Among the most disturbing details are the so-called baby oil baptisms, a term that sounds absurd until you realize raids uncovered enough bottles to flood a town. Katt once joked about Diddy's lawyer blaming Costco, only for Costco to fire back that they don't even sell baby oil. Beneath the humor lies something sinister. These weren't spa treatments, but ritualistic humiliations, designed to break down dignity and capture stars in compromising footage they'd never want revealed. This wasn't just debauchery, it was organized theater, Humiliation scripted under blinding lights, with the mogul himself directing every grotesque scene.
Explain why he's speaking out now.
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator. He wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked in the future.
Sources tied to the investigation insist the baptisms were never mere spectacle, but twisted initiation rites crafted to test loyalty, cement control, and blur the boundary between voluntary indulgence and forced submission. Guests who believed they were entering a glamorous soiree instead found themselves pushed into acts that could never be erased, their images captured, stored, and, if whispers are true, circulated in back-channel bidding wars. Seen this way, Diddy's empire resembles less a music dynasty and more a machine of blackmail. What's most disturbing is how these rumors now overlap with official evidence. The indictment details multi-day freak-offs with hotel suites, stocked in advance with linens, lighting, substances, and cameras, while victims allegedly left so shattered they required IV fluids to recover. And yet, the most grotesque element, the baptisms, remains unconfirmed, sustained only by the leaks of insiders, ex-employees, and bodyguards who each describe fragments of scenes that sound like a disturbing hybrid of nightclub decadence and cult initiation.
So, Terrence Howard appeared on the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet-David, and the episode, this premiered on April 4th. Definitely making the rounds because in this episode, Terrence Howard describes an interaction with Diddy where he says that he believes that Diddy was trying to have sex with him. Let's take a listen.
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come in.
And if puppet contracts and baby oil weren't grotesque enough, imagine the weight carried by the stars who signed. Behind every dazzling red carpet pose and polished interview may linger a constant dread that the footage could one day surface. For years, the performances we cheered might not have been shaped by directors, but manipulated by a hidden hand tugging strings from the shadows. Now, as the pressure mounts, Hollywood watches in silence, bracing to see who gets exposed first. The whispers grow darker with talk of the so-called blackmail vault. Insiders claim Diddy wasn't gathering cameras for amusement. He was assembling a library. Not fleeting gossip, but hours of damning recordings capturing global icons and acts that could obliterate their reputations instantly. Industry veterans insist the vault is real, safeguarded across multiple locations with duplicate copies held like insurance. The most chilling revelation comes from Daniel Baldwin, who alleges a bidding war has already begun, lawyers and agents offering staggering sums to keep tapes sealed. If even part of this is true, the panic stretches far beyond Hollywood's lights, reaching the halls of power, palaces, and governments across the world.
People I don't think realized was he had cameras all over the place, unbeknownst to them. And now he has all that footage, supposedly. This is what I'm told. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if, you're a huge iconic, TV star or movie star, and you're in some very, very...
Who's getting the money?
What Baldwin described is the ultimate pressure point. He claimed Diddy planted cameras everywhere, and that the recordings are now circulating through middlemen who are driving up the price of silence. What once resembled blackmail now looks like a full-scale auction, an auction of secrets powerful enough to topple dynasties. The possibility of these tapes falling into the wrong hands has entire industries on edge. Hollywood insiders are reportedly gripped by fear, with one entertainment lawyer admitting some of his clients are praying nightly that the vault never opens. But how far would the powerful go to shield themselves? Would a billionaire spend millions just to keep their image from leaking, or gamble everything they've built? And if this feels like paranoia, the indictment already confirmed suites staged like movie sets, complete with lighting, linens, and cameras set up in advance. If the goal was fleeting indulgence, why record at all? The logical answer is leverage. The kind of leverage that outlives reputations and careers. That's why Baldwin's words strike with such force, because they align perfectly with what's already known of Diddy's methods. It was never about one night of excess. It was about permanent insurance.
This was when his personal assistant was on the stand, and they were asking him about that he had witnessed that Sean Diddy Combs had taken, and he talked about ecstasy, and he said that one of those pills was in the shape of President Obama's face. Got some reaction from the juries, as if just to make an acknowledgement as to, oh, that's really interesting. That was in the shape of President Obama's face.
The parallels to Jeffrey Epstein's empire are impossible to dismiss. Both men cloaked their operations in glamour and exclusivity, luring the elite with the promise of luxury while quietly constructing systems insiders claim were designed to entrap the powerful. Epstein had his island, while Diddy had his hotel suites. Epstein relied on private jets. Diddy allegedly on chartered flights stocked with indulgences no guest would ever confess to publicly. In both cases, the settings weren't just playgrounds, they were stages engineered for compromise, where reputations could be weaponized indefinitely. Whispers of overlapping client lists make the picture even darker. Epstein's infamous black book named world leaders, Wall Street giants, and celebrities whose power depended on untarnished images. Now, with Diddy under federal investigation, reports suggest authorities are cross-referencing his guest lists with some of the same names. The notion that two separate networks may have intersected is chilling, especially when we remember how much of Epstein's evidence mysteriously vanished after his arrest.
Now, the interesting thing about the Epstein and the theory about Epstein is we know he filmed people for sure on that island. He has a lot of movies, a lot of films of people that are very, very powerful political figures. And entertainers, business people. So, do you really believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? Of course not. Of course not. No.
What ties these two cases together most tightly is the way blackmail itself became the true currency. Epstein was accused of hiding cameras in bedrooms, while Diddy allegedly outfitted hotel suites the same way. Epstein's victims spoke of being watched, recorded, and silenced under the threat that their lives would be destroyed if they dared to speak. Diddy's rumored vault of footage mirrors that same sinister design, granting him a weapon more devastating than wealth, control over the darkest secrets of those with everything to lose. In both cases, silence wasn't negotiated, it was enforced. The overlap grows even more chilling when we recall how Epstein's death left endless questions hanging in the air. Files vanished, hard drives disappeared, and suddenly the powerful exhaled with relief. Now with Diddy, we may be witnessing the beginning of a parallel saga. If the vault is ever seized, who will guarantee that evidence doesn't vanish into the same abyss of sealed files and missing recordings? The stakes are far greater this time because the world is watching closely, determined not to let history repeat itself.
If there is a God side and the other side, if there are moral things and things that are immoral, if there is this side or that side, it can't be left up to thought process. I'm an enforcer on this side.
There's also the unsettling question of shared associates. Epstein's world was woven with financiers, politicians, and royalty, while Diddy's circle, though rooted in entertainment, often overlapped with those same elites at banquets, fundraisers, and award shows where both networks collided in plain view. If investigators start tugging at those threads, what once seemed like isolated scandals may reveal themselves as interconnected systems of exploitation, built to shield and enrich the most powerful. The greater fear now is that Diddy's arrest could spark the same institutional panic that followed Epstein's downfall. Back then, the world caught a fleeting glimpse of how deep the corruption ran, only for the doors to slam shut before the full truth surfaced. With Diddy cornered and his alleged vault still looming, we face the very real possibility that more names, much bigger names, could topple. And the question that lingers is whether we are watching two separate scandals unfold, or the unraveling of one vast conspiracy that stretches far beyond what we've ever dared to imagine.
Well, the things that I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
Now the focus shifts from whispers of power games to the toll on the people who survived these so-called freak-offs. What investigators uncovered during the raids bordered on the surreal. Not dozens, not even hundreds, but thousands of bottles of baby oil stacked in storage, so many that agents dubbed it the My Baby Oil Factory, a grotesque emblem of excess. Katt Williams turned it into a punchline, saying Diddy's lawyer tried to claim it was a bulk buy from Costco, only for Costco to clap back. "We don't even sell baby oil." The joke landed, but the reality behind it lingers like a horror. Why stockpile so much? Was it an unchecked fetish? Or was it part of something more structured? Ritualistic, chemical, even strategic? As Katt hinted, the logistics themselves raise red flags. Pallets arriving by truck, Warehouses or basements turned into storerooms, suppliers processing bulk orders. Who signed off? Who looked the other way? Were companies complicit? Or were they convinced they were fueling some oddball skincare brand? And the darkest possibility that these bottles weren't just baby oil. Insiders whisper about additives, spiked concoctions designed to weaken, to dull resistance, to turn consent into a cruel illusion. Victims who thought they were stepping into massages may have instead been stepping into chemical traps, tools of control disguised as indulgence. Each new detail makes the story stranger and far more sinister than even the most twisted comedy sketch could convey.
I'm sorry, I'm just like really, I'm in this moment right now. This is crazy. Sorry. People don't really know how much what it does to you when something that you love is taken from you and thrown away like it don't even matter, and then they move on with their lives and you're stuck. You're stuck during those years. You're still stuck 21 years later.
The question is he a criminal? You know, is he basically akin to a mob boss running several criminal enterprises? And while it's very clear to me he is a depraved, disgusting person, we have to prove that he violated the law.